Well, welcome to Rev Up. This is session or module 10. Module 10, I'm Tommy Watson, so I'm your instructor for this session. And what we're going to talk about is finding motivated sellers and preparing to win the listing. So very instrumental in growing your real estate business. So if you'll just read along with me, I'm going to go over the learning objectives for Module 10. So we're going to look over the circles of opportunity and talk about how to find qualified and motivated sellers. We're going to talk about customizing your Realty One Group listing presentation. We're going to look at the 7 steps in the listing process. We're going to talk about how to qualify sellers and how to use the pre-listing questionnaire. Some other things you need to know are how to effectively research and prepare for the listing consult. Also, what do you put into a pre-listing package? What are the components of a pre-listing package? And how do you determine an accurate price range with a comparative market analysis? And we'll look at some scripts and dialogues for sellers. I'll make those available to you. So let's go ahead and jump right in. When we talk about finding motivated sellers, here are some top reasons for doing that. Why would you want to secure a listing? Well, number one, listings give you a greater control over your time. For example, you know that when working with a buyer, buyers can look in geographic regions that span miles and miles. They can look for different types of properties, and it's just going to take some time for them to choose. Whereas someone who's selling their house, they know when they want it done. It's a one-time thing. You put it on the market, you maintain it, you manage the showings, all that good stuff. So anyway, it gives you better control over your time. Number two, it helps you build a reputation in the marketplace. Every time a sign goes up on real estate, you're staking your claim. You're putting your name and your phone number. So not only are you doing service for the seller, but you're basically putting out a calling card for everybody else in that community, in that region. Number three, you can handle considerably more volume with listings than buyers. Why is that? Because with buyers, you can only be at one place at one time, but with listings, you can be at several locations from home or wherever you are. So you can put multiple listings up and manage them easier than you can handle multiple buyers. And then the last one is most sellers become buyers, which results in additional transactions. So there you go. So where do you find these motivated sellers? Well, give me just a second. All right. When we go back to these concentric circles that we started with, I think in maybe module 2, we get sellers from all different areas. You know, if we start on the outer circle, you know, we're prospecting, we're putting our website out, maybe we're blogging, we're finding potential sellers in different places. You know, it's mostly digital. When we come in to the next circle, this is where we're kind of meeting people more one-on-one, more personally. Could be parties such as a Christmas party, birthday party. Maybe you went walking around your neighborhood, meeting people. Maybe you're in, I don't know, maybe you're in a mastermind group or something like that in the community. Or other people are talking about you and sending you referrals. So anyway, what you want to do is make sure that you utilize all these different spaces. Now, when you're just starting out, you're not going to hit all of these, right? But what I teach is that when you're going out looking for business, sellers just like buyers, you're gonna want to go and start with what you know, what you have access to. So the groups that you're already in, they're prime because these people already know, love, and trust you, right? Or they should. Don't try to go buy leads and try to get business from strangers until you've exhausted your, what I call your sphere pipeline. So that list of people, that Rolodex of people that know you and are familiar to you or your friends, that's where you're going to get business first. So anyway, I'm not going to belabor that one. Scripts and dialogues, what are they for? Well, give me just a minute. Let me catch up with my notes. All right, scripts and dialogues. Why do we need scripts and dialogues? Well, because sometimes we forget what we're going to say, or we don't know what to say in a certain situation, right? So scripts are an essential part of our industry, right? They help us. Many people, especially in the beginning, object to learning and using scripts because they're afraid they will sound scripted. Well, you know what? You will unless you prepare properly. So if you were ever taught how to answer the telephone, you know, when you were growing up, you were learning and using a script. You just probably didn't think about it that way. Every single successful agent in real estate uses scripts on a daily basis. Most of the time, they aren't even aware of it, but they are the most effective way of handling objections. So 4 things to know about scripts. Number 1, the script is to be memorized, okay? So what you want to do is memorize so you can customize. So what does that mean? You're going to make it sound like you. You don't want to take a message and make it come out of your mouth like it came from somebody else. You want to customize it, tailor it, edit it to your vocabulary, your vernacular. And then you're going to, of course, internalize it. This is what really makes it near and dear to your heart and makes it something you really want to talk about. So first off, you start out memorizing, you know, the content of scripts. Then you customize it, you make it your own. And then you internalize it. That means you've thought about it so much that when the topic comes up, it just rolls off your tongue. So here's some examples. Scripts will help you eliminate stammering, stuttering, or any audible pauses that causes us to sound unsure of ourselves. It will provide consistent servicing of our clients since we basically use the same words and deliver the same message with scripts and dialogues. And just something to know, within one university, there are many scripts for you to choose from. Just scroll through them. I'm going to give you some at the end of this presentation to look at. But scripts can be used for any scenario. What we want to remember is we're using these scripts to overcome objections. Objections are excuses for people not to work with us. And the last part of the successful formula for scripts is capitalize on it. So a script is not going to do you any good unless you put it into action. So you need to use them. You need to have these available. When you're doing your prospecting, your lead generation, you want to have these scripts out in front of you so you can refer to them. Now, let's talk about prospecting. So what does it mean to prospect? Well, prospecting, you know, back in the old days, you know, people flocked to California to prospect for gold, right? Well, in the same way, you're going to prospect for gold. So gold for us is leads, which leads turn into appointments, which turn into contracts, which turn into commission checks, right? So let's talk about what prospecting might look like. So I'm going to give you a very basic schedule. So it's a 3-hour session. Let's just say if you're doing real estate Monday through Thursday, you want to block out or time block 3 hours a day for successful prospect. So number one, why do we time block? Well, if it's not in your schedule, it's not going to happen. That's why we time block. If it's not on your calendar, it's not really there. Okay. Because we don't do things unless we're scheduled to do them. That's what professionals do. So ideally, a good time block for prospecting is between the hours of 9 a.m. and noon, okay, during the week. That's the work day. I'm going to say this. I personally wouldn't really call anybody before 9 o'clock unless it's people that I knew, and I probably wouldn't call them before 8:30. So you can adjust this, but remember, we're going to break this up. So the first hour, we're going to talk about preparation. The second hour, we're going to talk about prospecting, and the third hour, follow-up. So technically, you could do a 8 to 11. If some agents do 7 to 10. So you just got to pick your time and know what's best for you. Some things to know about prospecting. When you prospect, that means you put a do not disturb sign on your door. You put anything else away that's going to cause an interruption. And probably you're just looking at your computer screen or your database and your phone. Okay. So you don't want any distractions. This is your time to get in touch with these people. So the mindset here is really important. Your mindset needs to be this: hey, for this block of time, I'm going to deliver my best over the phone or however you're delivering it over Zoom to these prospects. These are people that want to work with me. So you got to build that confidence in yourself. They need to see that positivity coming through the phone or through the Zoom, whatever it is you're using. All right, so we want to be prepared. Got that. Then we want to prospect. Then we want to follow. Okay, so prospecting. What actually is prospecting? Okay, so in the real estate industry, prospecting is picking your phone up and calling people, talking to people. Now, what happens if I call somebody and they're not there? Do I hang up? Well, you can decide if you don't want to leave a message or if you do. Personally, I leave a message. I let them know, hey, it was me calling. If it's a second or third call and they don't answer, I don't leave a message. And there's a whole formula for that, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But you're going to call people. All right, an effective 3-hour prospecting time block looks like this. The first hour is preparing your mind, getting mentally ready, getting your attitude ready, telling yourself that, hey, people really want to do business with you. They're going to answer the phone and they're going to be positive back to you. Now, a lot of times we know that's not going to happen, but we're going to expect it. So guess what happens when you expect good things happen. Make sure that you're using the right tonality and energy when talking on the phone. Remember your dialogues and scripts. You can have those out in front of you, just not to read them, but just to remind you, placeholders, whatever. Get your call list organized. Have your notebook ready. Your CRM, whatever it is you're going to use, and get ready for hour 2. So hour 2 is the prospecting. This is when you're making the calls, or you're doing an open house, or you're door knocking. It's the physical, most times physical, interaction with other people. So if you're making calls, follow your scripts and take plenty of notes. So you want to take notes, because if this person tells you, hey, don't I can only talk between the hours of 3 and 4 p.m. on Tuesday or Thursday. You want to make sure that you note that in your database because you don't want to call it at the wrong time. Okay. All right. What are we doing? Hour 3. What is follow up? So this is when you're entering your notes in your database that you wrote down by hand or whatever. This is following up with personal note cards or any type of lead generation follow up. Follow up could mean, hey, while you were talking to person X, they mentioned person Y, and that reminded you, oh, they were referred to me by one of my former clients. So maybe in that follow up, you include your former client who referred them remember them by a postcard or a phone call, whatever it is. Anyway, so you get the idea. Hour 1 is prepare, hour 2 is prospect, hour 3 is follow up. And I guarantee if you follow this model, and I don't mean make one phone call now, but even if you only make one phone call and you follow this model each day that you work, that's how you grow your real estate business, because you're actually putting things into action. You're actually setting motion. You're letting people know you're in the business. Okay. All right. Any questions? Okay, let's see. All right. Just looking through my notes here and make sure I didn't miss anything you might need to know. Okay. Nope. All right. So that brings us to our next screen. Let's talk about tracking your progress. You have a screenshot of a form that I have available that helps you track your progress. So if you can see on the screen, this helps you track the amount of calls you make or the amount of doors that you knock on or whatever it is you're doing. So if you get on the left column, the COI is circle of influence. So circle of influence, face-to-face, going down the column, calls, mailers, notes, open houses. Anyway, you get the idea. If you go to the top right of the screen, let me move something out of the way here. You can see it's Monday through Sunday, the days or the calendar that you're prospecting. So what you're going to do is, let me just point, if you see my cursor. So if we're in this first block, we're doing face-to-faces on Monday. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a diagonal slash across this block. And then on the top left of the block, I'm going to put my goals for the day. Okay. And then in the bottom, this other half corner, I'm going to put actuals. So if I intended to call or make 10 face-to-faces today, how many did I actually do at the end of the day? Okay. And you're going to do this for all of these the different types of prospecting that you're going to do for the week. And then what it's going to let you do is tally these up, and you're going to have these mechanisms to track your progress. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. And once you get the form, you will be able to see how to use it yourself. So we're going to talk about preparing to win the listing. So this is a reference to your listing presentation that you will find in One Design. So if you go on One Design under One Login, then you'll find this listing presentation that you can customize to your business. So I will go over mine towards the end of the session so you can see how we did it. But this gives you a tool to send to your prospective client, and also a tool that you can use and reference where you, excuse me, you can use it in your listing consult as a reference guide. All right. Moving on to the 7 steps in the listing process. So you can see number 1 starts at the top and it goes down through the bottom. So let's go through these 7 steps. What are they? Number 1 is completing the pre-listing questionnaire, qualifying the seller, and setting the listing appointment. That's all step 1. Step 2 is your research and preparation. Step 3 is to create and deliver the pre-listing package or packet. Number 4 is to conduct the listing presentation and present marketing and pricing strategies. Step 5 is to ask for the listing, complete the listing paperwork, and obtain signatures. Step 6 is market and service the listing, which is communication, negotiation, and the close. And then step 7 is after the sale follow-up system. Now, in today's session, we're going to talk about steps 1, 2, and 3. Actually, module 11 is the follow-up to this, where we'll talk about steps 4, 5, 6, and 7. Mindset. I talked about mindset earlier, but let's talk about it again. So when we talk about your real estate business, this is the mindset you need to have. I only work with motivated, qualified, and realistic sellers. Okay, tell yourself that. You will only work with people who are motivated, who can be qualified, and are realistic. Because somewhere along the way in your business, you're going to run into people that don't meet these 3 criteria. And if they don't meet these 3 criteria, you're going to be wasting your time. So you need to learn to say no. And what I mean by that is people are going to ask for your time. They're going to beg of you. They're going to ask you to do all kinds of things. They're going to want to see properties. They're going to want information, but they cannot buy a house. If they cannot buy a house, then what I would do in a polite way is refer them to my blog site, refer them to my website where they can get that information on their own. But in no way, shape, or form should you let these people take your time away from growing your business. Now, that's not to say that these people that can't qualify today can't qualify in 3 or 6 months or 12 months from now. So that's why we have a system of categorizing our leads. But for right now, what I'm talking about is people they're time suckers. They're not going to buy. You need to learn to politely say, no, I'm not the one to work for you. So what would you say in, those circumstances? So let me give you, maybe it's the next screen here. Here we go. All right. Saying no with grace. All right. Let's just say you've run into that client, and here's what you can say. You can screenshot this, take a picture of it, whatever you want to do, and make it yours. But say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm afraid that we or I are not the best match for doing business right now. I know that I will not be able to meet your expectations, and I would rather turn you down now than disappoint you later. Thank you for your consideration. I wish you the very best. So for somebody who's not being reasonable, somebody who's not actually going to be somebody you can close, what I would do is take this, make it your own, rephrase this, but learn to use this, because again, you don't want to waste your time with people who can't close. All right, now let's go into the listing process. What is this pre-listing agreement we've been talking of or about? So again, I will send you a copy of this, and actually I'm going to show it to you at the end of this presentation. But using the pre-listing questionnaire as a guide, it will allow you to ask questions to determine how ready, willing, and able your people are to sell, or how realistic or unrealistic their expectations are. Okay. That's huge. If more agents would do this pre-screening and using something like this pre-listing questionnaire, they would be more, I think, what's the word? More effective and efficient in their business. Because right from the beginning, before you even start doing CMAs and looking at properties, those are time suckers that we have to do, but they're time suckers. If somebody's not ready, willing, and able to work with you, then you don't waste your time. All right, and then you're going to qualify the seller. What does it mean to qualify the seller? Anybody want to unmute and tell me? What will qualify a seller? So making sure they're ready, willing, and able to work with you. That's one of the first things we learned in real estate school, right? So are they ready? Meaning, is their property ready to list in the next 30 days? Are they willing? Meaning, have they done the necessary work to their property? Have they talked to their significant other, their spouse, who's on the deed? Have they, done the necessary things to get ready to sell the house? And are they able? If they're underwater on their mortgage, then they're not able. So you need to do some checking up, some investigating. They need to produce some documentation for you so that you can determine that. So once you've qualified them, then you can set the listing appointment. Okay. So here's a question. Why wouldn't you just take any and all listings? Well, number one, okay, let me just go through a list of these. You don't make a dime until title changes hands, right? And if it can't close, if it can't get clear title, you can't get paid. So you're wasting your time. Unmotivated or unrealistic sellers demand more of your time. Overpriced listings take more of your valuable time and resources. Historically, these listings expire or go unsold, in a balanced market. Or once expired, the seller usually relist with another broker at the price they should have listed with you in the beginning. It's happened to me plenty of times. Overpriced listings help sell the competition. So these are reasons why you want to make sure that these people are ready, willing, and able. Then you can set the appointment. Because what you're doing is you're basically inviting potential clients to do business with you. This is a business transaction for you just as much as it is for them. Okay. You're going to put your time, hard work, and energy into it, time away from family. They need to understand that. All right. So you've determined their motivation. You've talked about pricing and timing. The seller's realistic about it. Property is able to transfer, able to get clear title. And then you previewed the home and surroundings for marketability. Yep. It's not a slum house. It's not a crack house. All right. So now let's go to the pre-listing questionnaire and use it as a guide. All right. So let's move on to the next screen. All right. Let me. Okay. So I'm looking around some things that I want to see. Give me just a second. Does anybody have any questions, by the way? Okay, no questions. All right, so let's look at the listing process as far as research and preparation. So what kind of research are we doing? What kind of preparation are we making? So first, we're going to research comps, right? What does that mean? It means we got to go on the MLS and look at the like properties that have closed in the last 6 months. Okay. Also, we're going to look at like properties that are under contract right now. We're going to look at like properties that are active right now. And we're going to start in that neighborhood, right? That community. And then we're going to go out maybe 2 miles. It just depends on your particular market. If you'll notice in the graphic on the screen, there are some things, some bubbles that tell us what we need to notice about a property when we're doing our research. Do you want to unmute and tell me what some of those are?
Can you repeat the question? My internet's a little shoddy.
Yep. If you can see your screen, there's some bubbles there on that picture that give us some ideas of things we need to notice or be aware of when we're doing property research.
Oh, yeah. So obviously peeling paint for FHA standards. If the roof, obviously I'm not a roof technician, but standing back from the street, you can see if a roof is straight or if it's, older shingles. Looking at stuff like that. If the garage door is dented, if there's landscaping needs for curb appeal.
Absolutely. Great. Excellent. Thanks, Joanna.
Mhm.
So things that you can notice with the eye, and as you get more experience in real estate, just like she said, you'll be able to determine what some things are that are a negative for the property or would detract from the price or the appeal. One of the first things I teach is, hey, this curb appeal thing is real. When people drive up to the property, what is their first impression? If it's not good, then you need to do some things to change it. You know, might need to cut some grass, put some flowers in, remove some trash, paint some doors, things like that. So you want to research comparables to determine the seller's equity position or lack thereof, hopefully not. So I want to recommend a program called Realtor Property Resource, RPR. You can find the link to it in the Canopy MLS under Resources tab. So just go down to RPR. That will give you full color reports and pull all the data that you want to need on a property to do research. So I use it over using the tool inside of Canopy. RPR, Realtor Property Resource. There's actually a class you can take on it and get, you can take it as an elective if you like. I think it's a 4-hour class and it's worth every dollar. Drive the surrounding area of the property and gather research such as community features, amenities. Also, you want to note any challenges which may affect the sale of the property, such as recent construction, buildings condemned, things like that. Anything like that, power lines, anything that would right-of-ways, anything that would affect the sale of the property or the marketability of the property. Preview any comparable properties currently on the market. I highly recommend that. That's a good way to learn the market. Text or take some exterior photos of the property for your information. These are not for MLS, but for you to go back and do more research. Let's move to the next slide. Some other things to know in your research and preparation. If you cannot see the home before your appointment, ask a lot of questions. So this is where the pre-listing questions to seller form comes in handy. And I will send you a copy of this. Get a good idea of what the home looks like to better prepare the comps and get more accurate value. To be honest, I think you should, what I do is I work out if it's a property that I need to travel to see, I try to have a phone conversation as part one of the listing consult. And then part two would be when I actually get to their house and view the property. And then I wouldn't talk price until after I got back home and told them that I need to finish my research. So, and I can talk about that more in a little bit. All right. We're still in step 3, the listing process. So let's talk about creating and delivering the pre-listing packet. All right. So if you don't know what a pre-listing packet or package is, it's really an excellent opportunity for agents to take advantage of. It's a tool that will allow you to minimize their objections right off the bat because you're giving them up-to-date information first. These are things you're giving them information of maybe some objections that might come up at the listing appointment. So really what you're doing is giving value. And the more you give value up front, the better your chances are of securing that listing. Okay. So it's an advantage for you to deliver. So let's talk about this pre-listing packet. So it can either be printed or it can be digital. So the RPR resource, you can download the hard copies and send them or take them with you, or you can send them through email. You can download them digitally. That's what I love. If you have a small laptop or an iPad, you can just go to the house or wherever you're meeting your client and pull it up on your iPad and just scroll through it. Looks really good on the iPad. Okay, but it doesn't matter if you hand deliver it, send it by email. Most times what I'll do is I'll send it the night before by email. And then when I get there, I will open it up and refer to it. So what it does, it's a report that looks clean, that shows you have high standards, you're professional, and that it has information contained within that helps them make pertinent decisions, okay, about selling their home. So some information about your home. What does that look like? Well, it could be tax records, plat maps, any aerial photos, property demographics, community information. When it comes to comparables or the CMA, what is that? Well, you want to take a CMA, a copy of it, or attach it to your listing presentation. So these are available homes that are comparables to their property, which would be the subject property. These will not determine the value. However, they are relevant because they represent the competition. They will help you determine fair or market value. Okay. Pending or contingent homes comparable to the subject property, these will not determine value in and of themselves either. However, they will give a good indication of a sellable range. Recent properties that have sold, which are comparable to your subject property, these are the best indicators of fair market value and what an appraiser will use to determine so. So recent properties going back 6 months that are like the property that you're researching, that's what we're looking for. All right, what's a resume? Does anybody use a resume? Well, yes. So in your pre-listing packet, what you need is a one-pager that tells people who you are. Okay, so you can utilize the Realty One Group listing presentation, which has a page or a section in it, but you want to highlight your professional experience, your education and industry designations, if any, your Realty One Group history and growth stats, your team information. And what I mean by team is not that you're on a team, but your team is the people that you use to close a transaction. If you use a transaction coordinator, an attorney, escrow agent, the loan officer, any support staff, any of that, refer to those as your team and let them know that you have a team behind you. You might want to put some family information. I don't put a whole lot about my kids, things like that, but I do put some family information. I talk about some of my outside interests. Talk about your mission, vision, and one value proposition. Client testimonials definitely include a couple of those. Your social media and personal website information. Okay, so those are some of the things you can put in your resume. A sample contract would be actually downloading a sample. It'll say sample stamped or watermarked across the paper from the internet. So the reason you're going to do this is you're giving them as much information up front to inform them. Now, when you get there for the consult, you're not going to throw all this on them, right? You just want to give them stuff to have access to. So remember that relationships or business is all about relationships. The more you know people, the better you can relate to them, the more business you're going to get. Okay. So some things that you might think about when you deliver your pre-listing packet to the door, you take it, you might want to set up a little gift bag with some treats for, the pet, or like a movie and popcorn night, or coloring book crayons for the kids, local city maps or guides, entertainment guides, things like that. So always add something a little more personal as value. And you want to put a cover letter. What is it that you want to say specifically to these clients about how you can help them? All right, we're almost done for the day. The next is I want to show you an example of the cover letter. So it could read something like this. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Smith, enclosed is some information I've gathered about your home. I've also included information about myself and my company and the listing contracts for you to review if you choose. Please feel free to review any of the enclosed information ahead of time and note any questions you may have. I look forward to answering all your questions and reviewing this information in detail during our appointment on Thursday at 4 p.m. By the way, there are a few things you may want to have handy for our appointment. And I love this. Number one, a spare key. We will need this for the lockbox. So right there, you're showing them, hey, I'm ready to go ahead and list your house. Number two, a recent mortgage statement. 3, homeowner association information. 4, a copy of your trust or LLC if the property is held in either. And then say something like this. Again, I'm looking forward to meeting with you on Thursday. Don't hesitate to call me if you have any questions. And here's my contact information. That right there will put you ahead of a lot of other agents because they're just not doing this. Okay. Now, again, this could be delivered by mail, but you're going to have to plan for it. You could send it by email, which is quicker, right? So there you go. All right. The next thing I want to mention or talk to you about is determining an accurate price range. Okay. Hold on. All right. So before we can determine an accurate price range, we need to do a comparative market analysis, right? So when you're doing that, remember a few things. When you're pricing properties for sale, always suggest a price range, never a single price. You need to be thinking like a buyer, okay? Don't think like an agent selling a house. Think like them. Think like a buyer. Don't use a price per square foot to determine value. You're going to use your comps, okay? Now, in those comps, we may come up with a price per square foot, but you don't determine value on that alone. And focus more on active listings than those that have sold. Do you know why? Because what are the active listings offering? Is your subject property comparative? Does it live up to the standards of those actives that are on the market right now? Okay. So that's how you can prepare your people. If the standard in that neighborhood is granite countertops, oversized cabinets, and hardwoods, but your house has carpet, standard cabinets, and laminate countertops, then guess what? It's not, you're going to have to price it lower because of that. Anyway, for the most part, not always, but you get where I'm going here. Before you can become proficient at pricing the properties, you got to understand two things. Number one, how buyers buy, and how the market supply affects pricing. Now, this little talk is not going to do us be much value to you right now because we're in a pseudo seller's market. I mean, anything that goes up is going to sell, right? Okay. But I want you to look at this graph or this image on the screen. The number of homes that have been selling in a particular area in the past 1, 3, or 6 months will give you an idea of how strong the market is. For example, if homes are selling quickly, like less than 4 months supply, we're in a seller's market. If homes are selling a lot slower, like greater than 8 months, we're in a buyer's market. If homes are selling at a steady rate, right around 6 months, we consider that a balanced market. So to calculate the number of months of inventory in your market, just search the available properties and divide them by what's been sold. Okay. Now, we don't really have to do that here because there's hardly anything in inventory, right? And they're all selling multiple offer day one or in coming soon, right? So, but I do want you to know how real estate works, how to evaluate it, and know what you're getting into. And as always, give me just a second. We talk about the one habit. So this is how we grow our business. So we develop the habit of spending time in prospecting, generating leads. And here's how we do it. We're going to make 3 calls a day at a minimum. We're going to call 3 people that we want to do business with or that want to do business with us, right? We're going to add those 3 people to our database. And then before that session is over, or that day is over, we're going to write 6 handwritten note cards, 3 to the 3 people we just added to our database, and 3 to 3 other people in our database we haven't touched lately. Okay. Does that make sense? All right. So I am going to give me a second. I'm going to exit out of my screen here. Okay, I'm trying to reduce. All right. I'm going to show you. All right. I can move some stuff around so I can see. All right. So the CMA handout that I'm going to send to you looks like this. So it gives you a price range example. It's an example worksheet for a CMA. Okay. Okay. You can just look through that. We're not going to do that right now. The pre-listing questionnaire, looks like this, and you can download this, make it your own, whatever, but have something similar as a guide. Also, I'm giving you the Realty One Group Seller's Guide. This is really neat. I would attach this to my listing presentation or incorporate it, because what it is, it has the different things that we've asked you to include in a listing presentation: pricing, marketing, condition, availability. So you're showing them how you're getting exposure for their listing. You're talking to them about pre-MLS marketing. When it goes active on the market, what it looks like, what happens, why get professional photos, why stage, Anyway, it goes through the different phases of the sale. So this is really good information to give potential clients. All right. Also, here's the tracker that I was talking about earlier, how to track your goals based on your prospecting method. And I think I have one more. Yep. I have three different tracking sheets. They all have, there's three different sheets because there's a long list of lead gen activities. And then page 3 is kind of your totals page, where you take and total up all your listings taken, your solds, your sales, your closings, your prospects. Okay. So let's stop the screen share and see if you have any questions before we end the rev up session. If there are no questions, then thanks for attending, and we'll see you again at our next rev up session.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.